lot of it has to do with my industry, the insurance industry. Certainly, you don't want a 200-pound guy hanging off of a rooftop, maybe with another 100-pound or 200-pound person in their arms, and then all of a sudden having that line snap, and then all of a sudden you're into a lawsuit. So it has to be tested and multi-tested, and that's what it is.
With the technology that's impacted the trucks and everything else, you have you have towers with stabilizers on them now, and you have all this. Are things safer as far as, are you seeing less claims?
Well, we are and we're not. When you do see a claim with a failure of a truck, it's catastrophic. What we do see is, let me try and put this in perspective. Glenside Fire Company in 1972 took delivery of 2 trucks, 2 open cab Seagrave pumpers. They have one of them left today. It's a beautiful truck, and the men and women take very good care of it at Glenside. Those trucks were $50,000 apiece. Last year, at Beach Haven Fire Company, I was proud to serve on the truck committee, and we purchased a new Spartan pumper. 6-man cab, 750-gallon of water, 2,000-gallon-a-minute pump, plain Jane truck. That was $470,000. So we're getting the same job done with $470,000 that we did with $50,000 in 1973. So,
and it's funny too, because we're spending more money on the equipment, but we're making stuff safer, so there are less actual fires.
Well, we're making things very safe. In fact, in this new Spartan truck, as a driver, I can't pull it out of the firehouse without everybody in seatbelts, because the noise is so horrendous that nobody would want to drive down the street with that noise. So it's telling me as an operator of the truck, your manpower is not seated and they're not buckled in. So that's important. There are some manufacturers that have it so that you can't even put the truck in gear unless they're all in a seatbelt. We don't have that. There are stabilizers on these aerials, whether they're aerial towers or an aerial ladder, that will prevent you from putting it in an unsafe position, whether the angle is wrong or whether you don't have the stabilizers out properly. So yes, these manufacturers have gone to an awful lot of engineering trouble, which then also makes what else happen? The engineering trouble. Now the truck's got to go for more service, but you can't have one without the other.
Well, everything is essentially now a computer that does a job, a computer that's a washing machine, a computer that's a truck, or whatever. And what you said before is interesting, because you said that you see more catastrophic failures, and I think that things are engineered so precise now to meet the requirement that it doesn't have the wiggle room if it fails, whereas before we just kind of eyeballed it and throw some more steel on that. Now they're engineering it precise, just above the minimum, and when it fails, it just goes.
It's catastrophic.
It just goes. It doesn't have the wiggle room. You've probably got, and I usually don't, one of the things I avoid is because lots of people don't have, they think they have good stories, but they don't have good stories. You probably have a story from every firehouse.
I'd love them.
And we don't have the time, because if I said to tell the story about best insurance claims, I bet you every chief would pull up to the mic and wonder if it's going to be him that's mentioned and sweat it out.
I could write a book, and the fire department's names would remain nameless. But Mark, I could write a book on the things that happened to our firefighters. The other night, I was privileged to be invited to a banquet at Lehigh Township Fire Department up in Lehigh County. And their president, Roger Spate, and their chief, Rich Hildebrandt, made presentations to, I believe, 14 or 15 men. Those 14 or 15 men had 500 years of service combined with that department. That was amazing to me. And yet, when you look at some of our new members coming in, if they stay 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, that's great. To see a member stay 20, 25 years, that's just not happening today. So I've seen that happen, but I've seen catastrophic losses with trucks. I've seen pumps blow up. Many years ago, there was a truck on a hydrant that will remain nameless that absolutely went into vacuum. And when it did, it sucked the stones right out of the Philadelphia water system, right into its impellers. And fortunately, a local company in Orland, Pennsylvania, who will also remain nameless, but every firefighter knows who he is, who they are, were able to jump to it and fix it quick. Gosh, that claim has to be 34 years ago, because the night of that claim was the night I brought my son Steve home from the hospital as an infant.
Wow.
And I remember saying to my wife, "This is a bad fire, I got to go." And she says, "You don't have a choice," and I went. And he's 34 years old.
Wow.
So that's why I said I can I may not be able to remember milk and eggs when my wife tells me to bring it home, but I can remember every one of these claims like it was yesterday afternoon.
And that's so true. You can remember the oddest things. Mm-hmm. And I've always got the feeling that you genuinely love your job, that you never go to work because you love it every day.
So there's a lot of folks that say to me, "Wes, at some point, when are you going to retire?" And I said, in order to retire, you have to have a real job. And I don't have a real job. I don't have a job. And they always say, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life, and that's where I am.
Are there any generic stories you can tell, or overall stories?
Oh, sure.
Without naming names.
Oh, absolutely.
But everybody will know.
Oh my gosh, we've had lots of operator error type claims. For instance, we had a claim on an aerial ladder. The swivel valve at the bottom of that ladder, that aerial, blew apart. Well, my gosh, they consistently, the officers said, well, this must be a manufacturing defect. And of course, one thing you need to know, that manufacturing defects are not insurable. They're not covered. We looked at it further. Our adjuster, who you well know, looked at it further, a wonderful guy, and said, no, this was not operator error. It turned out that they were training. In the training process, the chief shut the water supply off dramatically quick. When he did, it caused a water hammer. He was trying to train his operators what to do in the event of a water hammer. Well, in doing so, he blew out an $8,900 valve. Happens. We've had situations where the aerial ladder is put up against the side of a building in an effort to put men on this roof or women on the roof, emergency volunteers on the roof, air packs, hose line, gear, the whole deal. And in doing so, they've banged that roof line so hard that we've had to replace the fly on the ladder. Operator error. We cover operator error.
Would you say that you see more accidents in training or in duty?
No, I would say it's about 50-50, because if you think about it, in training, our firefighters and EMS personnel are basically trying to put their equipment to the limit so they know what to do when they have to put it to the limit. And so it's about 50-50. But I mean, I have a firefighter now that people know about, was hit by a lady in a car. He was a fire policeman directing traffic, major highway, gets hit by a car. He could have been killed. Fortunately, he was only severely injured. And I know that sounds bad, but he was severely injured. I had a firefighter down in Delaware County where the TGI glue, which melts at about 600 degrees, let go, and the floor collapsed on him and his partner. He was in a coma for 7 months, in a chemically induced coma. When it was all done, he lost his right arm, from his elbow down and lost his left leg from his knee down. He was 24 years old when that happened. He's doing terrific, and he's back in bunker gear. Amazes me. Chester Crozier Hospital put this man back together. But what a terrible time it was for him. So, yes, we've had some real catastrophic and tragic things. We've had some stupid things happen. You know, I tripped and fell and broke my fingers. Okay, sorry that happened. We're going to take care of you. But that's what we do. We try to do whatever we can to put ourselves in the position of that emergency service member so that they don't lose time from work. They get the medical care they need. They get the benefits that they're entitled to, and their equipment gets fixed. And we all go home together. That's the important thing.
You should do that, though. You should start writing things down.
I know. They've said that to me before. You know, I could write a book, but I think I'd be the only one that read it.
I don't know, because anybody will read something that they're named in.
Yeah.
And you got a lot of names.
Oh, gosh. I could tell some stories. I mean, we've had fire chiefs that say what we would all say in the 80s and 90s, but you can't get away with that now in 2017.
Yeah.
We're going to court over that.
Yeah. You know. Same things. What do you think... you said this is all you've ever done,
yes,
for the most part. If
is.
You could do something else, no idea, never thought about playing a saxophone?
No, not at all. I've never had any aspirations to be anything else but in the insurance business and handling insurance for emergency services. That's what I know. That's where my comfort zone is. And that's where I have a blast doing it.
You know, and that's really the problem with a lot of people now is they're always looking for the next best thing and not realizing that they should just be happy with what they do and be content with that.
You know, a lot of folks today are working 3, 4, 5 different jobs, and they still haven't found out what they wanted to do. They've tried all kinds of things. I've been very lucky. Either that or very stubborn, one or the other. My dear wife, Linda, will tell you I'm pretty stubborn when it comes to this. We take phone calls at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm happy to get them. I just have to tell the caller, give me a moment to get my feet on the floor, and then let's talk. But, you know, in the emergency service business, things don't happen, you know, from 8 to 4. So,
last question. What do you think your legacy will be?
Wow. I don't know. I just hope people say nice things about me. They remember that we paid claims, that we took care of them, that we were inquiring about them, that we were worried about their wives and their kids, that we were happy to hear that their kids were playing on a super-duper soccer team or baseball team, or that they remember that I remembered their wives' names.
You know, one of my guys said once, is he really that nice? And I said, I've never heard otherwise. So
it's nice of you to say.
I've never heard otherwise.
Thank you.
But I want to thank you for coming.
I appreciate this opportunity,
Time
Mark.
flew by, and
it did. We could sit here and talk for hours about emergency services.
And you could name names and incidents and bizarre insurance claims and just make every fire chief past and present sweat it out.
Yep. That's true, Mark. Thank you very, very much for this opportunity, and thanks to all of our emergency service volunteers across the state.
Thanks, Wes.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for listening. You can catch us on SoundCloud. You can also catch us on the web, unsung.us. Stay safe, stay sane, stay smart. We'll see you again next week.
I can be wrong. My own beliefs are in my song. The picture, the thinker, the drummer, and then makes no difference what group I'm in. I am everyday people. Yeah.
Welcome to the after show.
Okay, Wes, I know you're in a rush because you're always heading to the other side of the state, but is there anything you wanted to go over? I mean, without naming names, because I like to keep saying that because I know that they'll lean into the mic every time. You know?
Well, you know, if you wanted to add that pumper claim that we talked about with the Stones coming out, we could kind of tease the listeners a little more by saying that this fire company on March the 4th will be celebrating 125